Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Janna Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Acharya Ashtottara Shatashi Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Antaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Can you get me some water? Please. So today is a very special day. It is the appearance day of Sri Shyamananda Prabhu, a great devotee, Acharya within Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. And also it is the appearance day of Sri Vamsivadana Vadananda Thakura. So we'll just read a little bit about them, their lives. And also it is Balarama Rasayatra and Krishna Vasant Rasya. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. Okay. Om Jnanativedandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshudharamilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karidavachalam Pangam Langayate Girimya Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Diditadanam Vancha Kapdibhisha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Alright, so this is from Mahanidhi Swami's Gaudiya Vaishnav Samadhi's book. This book. Good idea he had. So this is Sri Shyamananda Prabhu. Feeling very sad over which another word for sad is dukhi. Over losing several children before his birth, his parents named him Dukhi Krishna Das. Upon taking Diksha, initiation from Hridaya Chaitanya, he became known as Krishna Das. In Vrindavan, he joined Narottam Das Thakur and Srinivas Acharya to study the Goswami Granthas under Sri Jiva Goswami. And then there's this is you could say the most famous. What we're about to read here is what he's known for. While living in Vrindavan, Krishnadas regularly swept the streets before dawn. He performed this humble service so that the Vaishnavas would not hurt their feet while walking to the temples. One morning he found a captivatingly beautiful golden ankle bracelet. When Lalit and Vishaka Sakis asked for the bracelet, Krishnadas said he would only give it to the original owner. So, what's happening here is Shyamananda Prabhu, or you could say Krishnadas, known as Krishnadas at this particular stage, he would sweep the, it says here, the walkways before dawn. So when the pilgrims would be walking to different temples, they wouldn't hurt their feet, you could say. So this is this is actually very instructive. He was doing humble service for the Vaishnavas, and that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends. He recommends Trinada Pisunichana Tarora Pisuhishana Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. So one could be successful in chanting the holy names of Krishna if they're humble. And not just like any type of quality of humility, but the quality of humility is very humble. And so humble as a blade of grass. And as tolerant as a tree. And giving all praise to others and expecting no praise and respect. Praise and respect. But praise, anyways. Not expecting any praise, but giving all praise to others. In such a state, one could chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Kirtaniya Sadahari, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends. Chant constantly. So he was doing this humble service. There was my spiritual master. So we'll see how far we get with reading this, and then also talking about Balarama, Rasayatra, and reading Bhagavatam. So we'll see how far we, with the time allotted. There was one devotee in Vrindavan. He's a ISKCON Swami, and he goes to Vrindavan every year during Kartik, and he performs very severe austerities there. Severe means not like Prithu Maharaj in the Bhagavatam or something, right? Like we've been reading about breaking the ice and sitting in the cold water or something like that, but means going, not carrying on as usual or doing more than he usually does. Means chanting more, reading more, things like that. So what he would do is he would have a place near, he would have a little place near Radhakund, and he would wake up very early in the morning, and he would practically just chant all day long on his japa beads. Many rounds, and he would eat very little and sleep very little. So practically just chanting all the time, chanting. And he was explaining to my spiritual master when they met. My spiritual master met him there in Vrindavan. They were talking, and he was explaining that he was trying to enter into the holy name. Means he was trying to experience the holy name. In other words, he was trying to become connected with Krishna. That's like we're all doing, right? We're all trying, Hare Krishna. What are we trying? We're trying to connect with Krishna. Bhakti yoga, to connect. But he felt that there was something missing. The connection wasn't clear. Like sometimes you're on a phone call and the connection's not clear. So the connection wasn't clear. In other words, he felt he was like knocking on the door, but he felt he wasn't getting any entrance into the real experience of the holy name, the real holy name. So then he thought to himself, okay, I need to do something. Not that like, okay, I'm not really experiencing the holy name. Let me just, give up my vrat, give up my vows, and I mean extreme cases. Let me give up Krishna consciousness. People do that, right? I'm not experiencing, let me give it up and I'll go do something else. Like I like to say, join the circus. Means the Maya circus of the material world. So no, he was thinking, not on any level let me give it up. Not let me give up chanting so many rounds he was chanting every day. Not let me get up waking up early. But he was saying, let me arrange myself in such a way where Krishna will be pleased to grant me a taste for the holy name. Not that, it's Krishna's fault. Well, we should think that we need to arrange ourselves better, right? So that's what he did. So he said, okay, what am I going to do? And then he thought, okay, Vaishnava Seva. Let me serve the Vaishnavas. Or let me do some humble service. Specifically, let me do some humble service. So what he did is he would sweep around Radhakund very early in the morning. Like really early in the morning. Like when no one was around. Because he would sweep, and the reason being is that he didn't want anybody to see him doing that. Now, of course, he didn't want anybody to see him doing that because he didn't want people to come up to him and say, "Oh, Maharaj, you're so humble, and you're such a great devotee, and look at you're doing such nice service." And then he becomes puffed up, and then he still can't enter the holy name, have the experience. So he would do it when no one was around because he didn't want to get any recognition for it. Now, of course, there's the other side of the coin where, like, there was a man here, Tirthamarsh told me this, there was a man, he was an Indian man, whatever, he happened to be Indian, but he didn't want people to see him do any humble service because he thought, it was kind of embarrassing, and so he would specifically wait till all the Sunday feast people left. He would do that on purpose, and then he would help. So that's out of pride, but this was out of humility, this Swami. So he was doing that, sweeping, and then he felt that Krishna allowed him entrance into the holy name. In other words, that experience of the holy name was a lot more stronger based on that service. So that's a good lesson for anyone, for everyone. So here, this is what Krishnadas was doing. He was sweeping, so the pilgrims wouldn't hurt their feet going to the different temples. And then one day while he was sleeping, one day when he was sweeping, what happened? He found a bracelet, a golden bracelet, ankle bracelet. And then what happened? It said Lalita and Vishaka asked for the bracelet. Krishnadas. When Lalita and Vishaka asked for the bracelet, Krishnadas said he would only give it to the original owner. So this personality, Krishnadas, was so advanced, living in Vrindavan, that Lalita and Vishaka, means Srimati Radharani's associates, they came to him personally. And they said, they knew that, okay, you have that bracelet, or you have that ankle bracelet. Let me say anklet, or you have an ankle bracelet. So they said, can you please give that back to us? So he was very advanced. We can imagine how advanced he was. So then what did he say? He didn't say, okay, here you go, here's the ankle bracelet. He said, I'll only give it back to the original owner. So I'm not giving it back to you. So this is what happened. Blindfolding Krishnadas, the gopis brought him to Srimati Radhika. So they blindfolded him and they brought him to Srimati Radharani. she allowed him to put the bracelet on her ankle. But before fastening it, Krishnadas reverentially touched it to his forehead. So, yeah, before, I mean, again, you can imagine how advanced this person is. Srimati Radharani personally is allowing him to put this ankle bracelet on her ankle. And then before he fastens it, he touches it to his head, his forehead. This left a new tilak mark, which now distinguishes all of Shyamananda's followers. So if you go to Vrindavan, or when you go to Vrindavan, you'll see that there's devotees who are followers of Shyamananda Prabhu, and they have a different type of tilak. So, for some reason, I'm forgetting exactly what it looks like, unfortunately. Does anyone remember? You remember? That's too bad. It's important. Huh? It's, yeah. But that mark, it's a little more complicated. Anyways, maybe it becomes easier over time, but ours seems a lot easier, to put on. It's a little bit more, like, I don't want to say artistic, but in some ways it looks a little more artistic, more difficult to put on. You find it? Rejoicing over Krishnadas's transcendental fortune, Srila Jiva Goswami awarded him the name Shyamananda. So Jiva Goswami heard about this and he said, your name is Shyamananda now. And Shyamananda means what? One who pleases Srimati Radharani, or the servant of Shyamasundar Krishna. Sometime after Hridaya Chaitanya's disappearance, he reappeared in a dream telling Shyamananda to preach. So Hridaya Chaitanya is his spiritual master. With the help of his foremost disciple, Rasikananda, Shyamananda profusely spread the worship and service of Gaur Nityananda all over Orissa. 24-hour kirtans surround Shyamananda's Pushpa Samadhi, which is located on the opposite side of the street running between Radha Shyamasundar and Radha Damodar temples in Vrindavan. Yeah, nice. That's about Shyamananda. You found some tilak? Yeah, he was known as Krishnadas, and then Jiva Goswami gave him the name Shyamananda. And Shyamananda is the one who put Srimati Radharani's ankle bracelet on his... Yeah, Shyamananda. Shyamananda Parivar, yeah. Maybe you could pass around the devotees. Let's see here. No, it doesn't say. Here, anyways. Yeah. Amazing. Alright, so next is Vamsivadana Thakura. Vadanananda Thakura, also known as Vamsidas. When he appeared, Lord Chaitanya and Sri Advaita Prabhu were staying in his home. So that's special, right? When you appear, who was staying in your home? I don't know, maybe some materialistic relatives or something, right? But here, Vamsidas, when he appeared, who was staying in his home? Says Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Advaita Acharya. After the disappearance of Srimati Vishnu Priya, Vamsidas moved her Mahaprabhu Didi to Koladweep, which is present-day city of Navadweep. So this is also special because Vishnu Priya would worship this Dameshwar Mahaprabhu, Vishnu Priya being Mahaprabhu's wife before he accepted sannyas. So she would worship this deity, very beautiful deity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And every day, she's very austere. She would just, each round she would chant, she would just put a grain of rice there. And then at the end of chanting all her rounds every day, she would eat that. Or honor that. Offer to her deity and honor that. So it says that Vamsivadana, he got that Mahaprabhu's deity, Vishnupriya's deity, and he moved it to Navadvip. And he began worshipping him along with Pranavalabha, a deity of Krishna. So that's a very important service he did. And now you could also go to that and see that deity. When you're in Mayapur, if you just walk down to the Ganga and then you pay the boatman some rupees, he'll take you across to Navadvip, and then you from that place, which is short, right? How it's really short to get. 10 minutes to Navadvip. Get off the boat, you walk. Do you have to take a rickshaw to 15-20 minute walk, or 10 rupees for a rickshaw drive walla to take you there to that wonderful temple of Dameshwar Mahaprabhu. So close. Well, first you have to get first you got to drive to LA 2 hours, then you have to go on a plane for 24-hour, 36-hour journey, and then you got to take a 3-hour drive to Mayapur. And if you're not already burnt out by that, eventually, you could take the boat across and then 15-20 minute walk or short rickshaw drive. A wonderful temple there. So Vamsivadana wrote wonderful poems and songs expressing the philosophy of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. He was also the incarnation of, does anyone remember? Huh? Yes. Krishna's flute. Lord Murli Manohar's flute. So it is not surprising that Vamsivadana Thakur's works contain sweet, mellow expressions of devotion. So it's interesting, huh? He's the incarnation of Krishna's flute. Very special personality. So appearance. So also today is the appearance. The time in which there's two rasa lila dances going on, and one is Krishna's, which is Krishna Vasant, right? Krishna Rasa Vasant, which means that it is the rasa dance which Krishna engages with the gopis, cowherd damsels of Vrindavan, during springtime. And then the other rasa lila that happens, but not during this time, but is during Kartik, Sharat season, right? Kartik. So those are the two rasa dances that go on. But also today is the time in which Lord Balaram, he visited Vrindavan, and he also performed a rasa dance. But with his gopis, they weren't Krishnas, they don't have the same gopis from New York City. Visiting, where was he coming from? Well, I think he's coming from Dwarka, right? Isn't it? Yeah. He's coming from Dwarka. Yeah. So yeah, it's a time where Krishna or Balaram was performing these pastimes. He specifically came to Vrindavan because they left Vrindavan. They were there in their childhood. They went to Mathura and they went to Dwarka, and then for so many years they didn't visit. Of course, the Acharyas explain that Krishna came back at one point, but it's clearly stated in the Bhagavatam that up front that Balaram came back and he stayed there 2 months. So because it's that day, I think we should. I'll let everybody meditate on the Krishna's Rasa Leela on their own time. Okay, so you could read Krishna book or listen to it. You got to be careful though, okay? Because Rasa Leela is very high, so no funny business. But in at least in terms of Balaram's, why is it high? Why is it high? Because it's Krishna's most intimate pastimes with his devotees, but also it is very difficult to understand because it seems that Krishna, especially for a mundane or complete mundaner, that it's just boy and girl love. Krishna's just enjoying with young girls. But these young girls are just not any young girls, but they are Krishna's pure devotees, the most pure devotees in the spiritual world. So it's conjugal relationships, but still it is confusing and maybe difficult to understand. And even in the Vaishnava world, Prabhupada said that we have to be careful when meditating or thinking or reading such things, because we have to be of a certain level of consciousness, or at least in a certain level of consciousness at the time while we're reading it, to properly appreciate it. Because like there was that whole time in Los Angeles when the devotees were, they started the Gopi Bhava Club. And the Gopi Bhava Club was specifically, they would get all of the nectarian pastimes with Krishna and the gopis found within the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which are pretty intimate, and also within the 10th canto, Rasa Leela section, and they would just read that. Now, Prabhupada didn't appreciate that, and he heard about it, and he was really upset. And Dravida Prabhu doesn't mind, because he's brought it up himself here on the Vyasa-san, that he was also in that club. But he was in the club because, the shlokas and, enthusiasm. But what happened is Prabhupada, he wasn't in Los Angeles, and then Prabhupada came to Los Angeles. But Dravida Prabhu got out of the club before Prabhupada came, because he figured that something about this wasn't right. He missed that chastisement from Prabhupada. So what Prabhupada did is he called all the devotees into his room, and he was really upset. Prabhupada was really upset. When Prabhupada was upset, it was very terrifying, for devotees. They were very angry, and Prabhupada was, so much shakti, so much intensity, and I'm sure it's recorded somewhere, the conversation. Maybe we can look it up sometime and read it and listen to it. But one of the things that came out from there is that he said, first deserve, then desire. So in other words, he's saying, what is your qualification? What is your adhikar? You have to have qualification, just like we sing every morning to Tulsi. Give me the adhikar, right? What's it? How does it go? Yeah. Give me the adhikar for service, for engaging in this, very close service to Krishna, Shri Radha Krishna. Giving me the adhikar to enter Vrindavan, to be a Vrajvasi. That's what we're praying for. So it's not that just any fool and rascal could just, I'm entering Vrindavan. Even in this Vrindavan, in this world. No, it's adhikar. You have to have qualification. So that's what came out of it. First deserve, then desire. Another thing that came out of it was that instead of getting purified, Prabhupada said you're getting putrefied. Putrefied means, what's the definition of putrefied? Rotten, yeah. I mean, putrefied things, it is terrible. I mean, it's, people don't want anything to do with putrefied things. I mean, maybe unless they're in the mode of ignorance. But, like, for example, things that just go off, and, people throw it away, putrefied, just throw it away. Of course, there's some, people eating habits throughout the world. But, so that's what he said. Be careful that you're seeing it in the right way, so you're getting purified, not putrefied. So yeah, we have to be careful in the sense that Krishna is not an ordinary person, and the gopis are not ordinary persons. Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and the gopis are pure devotees, and it has nothing to do with mundane lust. And Prabhupada said, if you're getting lusty from reading about it, stop reading it. That means, So yes, it is the Rasa Leela day for Krishna, but we're not going to read that within the Krishna book. And if anybody on their free time wants to do that or hear it, Jivita Prabhu has a really nice recording of it, actually. Him speaking, reading the 10th canto, whether it's Krishna book or the 10th canto, but it's actually really nice. If you analyze Jivita Prabhu's voice, you'll see he has a perfect voice for reading and chanting shlokas. If you really listen to it, anyways. So you could look that up if you want. But what we will do is we'll just read a little about Lord Balaram visiting Vrindavan. So this is, and I know reading's sometimes difficult for devotees in the audience, to hear somebody read. So if you want, you could follow along, which may help you, or which may be easier or more enlightening to you, or enlivening, which is chapter 65 of Krishna book. Lord Balaram visits Vrindavan, or you could just hear. So this is Okay, so Lord Balaram became very anxious to see his father and mother in Vrindavan. Therefore, with great enthusiasm, he started on a chariot for Vrindavan. So chapter 65, Lord Balaram visits Vrindavan. The inhabitants of Vrindavan had been anxious to see Krishna and Balaram for a very long time. When Lord Balaram returned to Vrindavan, all the cowherd boys and the gopis had grown up, but still on his arrival they all embraced him, and Balaram embraced them in reciprocation. After this he came before Maharaj Nanda and Yashoda and offered his respectful obeisances. In response, Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj offered their blessings unto him. They addressed him as Jagadishvara, or the Lord of the universe who maintains everyone. It's interesting. Jagadishvara, but they're giving blessings. They addressed him as, The reason for this was that Krishna and Balaram maintain all living entities, and yet Nanda and Yashoda were put into such difficulties on account of their absence. Feeling like this, they embraced Balaram and, sitting him on their laps, began their perpetual crying, wetting Balaram with their tears. So Balaram at this particular time, he wasn't a young, Kumara boy. He was grown. He was a grown, say looking like a teenager, 20 years. So they put him on his lap, though, still, and they're crying, wetting Balaram with their tears. Lord Balaram then offered his respectful obeisances to the elderly cowherd men and accepted the obeisances of the younger cowherd men. Thus, according to their different ages and relationships, Lord Balaram exchanged feelings of friendship with them. He shook hands with those who were his equals in age, in friendship, and with loud laughing embraced each one of them. After being received by the cowherd men and boys, the gopis, and King Nanda and Yashoda, Lord Balaram sat down, feeling satisfied, and they all surrounded him. First, Lord Balaram inquired from them about their welfare, and then, since they had not seen him for such a long time, they began to ask him different questions. The inhabitants of Vrindavan had sacrificed everything for Krishna, simply being captivated by the lotus eyes of the Lord. Because of their great desire to love Krishna, they never desired anything like elevation to the heavenly planets or merging into the effulgence of Brahman to become one with absolute truth. They were not even interested in enjoying a life of opulence, but were satisfied in living a simple life in the village as cowards. They were always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and did not desire any personal benefits, and they were all so much in love with him that in his absence their voices faltered when they began to inquire from Balaramji. First, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai inquired, "My dear Balaram, are our friends like Vasudeva and others in the family doing well? Now you and Krishna are grown-up married men with children. In the happiness of family life, do you sometimes remember your poor father and mother, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Devi? It is very good news that the most sinful King Kamsa has been killed by you, and that our friends like Vasudeva and the others who have been harassed have now been relieved. It is also very good news that you and Krishna defeated Jarasandha in Kalayavana, who is now dead, and that you are now living in a fortified residence in Dwarka. When the gopis arrived, Lord Balaram glanced over them with loving eyes. Being overjoyed, the gopis, who had so long been mortified on account of Krishna's and Balaram's absence, began to ask about the welfare of the two brothers. They specifically asked Balaram whether Krishna was enjoying his life surrounded by the enlightened women of Dwarkapuri. The enlightened women. Does he sometimes remember his father, Nanda, and his mother Yashoda, and the other friends with whom he so intimately behaved while in Vrindavan? Does Krishna have any plans to come here to see his mother, Yashoda, and does he remember us gopis, who are now pitiably bereft of his company? Krishna may have forgotten us in the midst of the cultured women of Dwarka, but as far as we are concerned, we still remember him by collecting flowers and sewing them into garlands. When he does not come, however, we simply pass our time by crying. If only he would come here and accept these garlands we have made. Dear Lord Balaram, descendant of Dasharha, you know that we would give up everything for Krishna's friendship. Even in great distress, one cannot give up the connection of family members, but although it might be impossible for others, we give up our fathers, mothers, sisters, and relatives. But then Krishna, without caring a pinch for our renunciation, all of a sudden renounced us and went away. He broke off our intimate relationship with serious consideration and left for a foreign country. But he was so clever and cunning that he manufactured very nice words. He said, "My dear gopis, please do not worry. The service you have rendered me is impossible for me to repay. After all, we are women, so how could we disbelieve him? Now we can understand that his sweet words were simply for cheating us." Protesting Krishna's absence from Vrindavan, another gopi said, "My dear Balaramji, we are of course village girls, so Krishna could cheat us in that way. But what about the women of Dwarka? Don't think they are as foolish as we are. We village women might be misled by Krishna, but the women in the city of Dwarka are very clever and intelligent. Therefore I would be surprised if such city women could be misled by Krishna and could believe his words." Then another gopi began to speak. "My dear friend," she said, "Krishna is very clever in using words. No one could compete with him in that art. He can manufacture such colorful words and talk so sweetly that the heart of any woman would be misled. Besides that, he has perfected the art of smiling very attractively. And by seeing his smile, women become mad after him and give themselves to him without hesitation." Another gopi, after hearing this, said, "My dear friends, what is the use of talking about Krishna? If you are at all interested in passing time by talking, let us talk on some subject other than him. If cruel Krishna can pass his time without us, why can't we pass our time without Krishna? Of course, Krishna is passing his days without us very happily, but we cannot pass our days happily without him." So they're saying that, oh, Krishna is happily, but we're not. And of course, in Brihad Bhagavatamrita says that Krishna is feeling separation from the residents of Vrindavan. There's a great description of that. It's quite interesting. When the gopis were talking in this way, their feelings for Krishna became more and more intense, and they were experiencing Krishna's smiling, Krishna's words of love, Krishna's attractive features, Krishna's characteristics, and Krishna's embraces. By the force of their ecstatic feelings, it appeared to them that Krishna was personally present and dancing before them. Because of their sweet remembrance of Krishna, they could not check their tears, and they cried without consideration. Lord Balaram, of course, could understand the ecstatic feelings of the gopis, and therefore he wanted to pacify them. He was expert in presenting an appeal, and thus, treating the gopis very respectfully, he began to narrate the stories of Krishna so tactfully that the gopis became satisfied. To keep the gopis in Vrindavan satisfied, Lord Balaram stayed there continuously for 2 months, namely the months of Chaitra, March, April, and Vishaka, April, May. For those 2 months he kept himself among the gopis, and he passed every night with them in the forest of Vrindavan to satisfy their desire for conjugal love. Thus Balaram also enjoyed the rasa dance with the gopis during those 2 months. Since the season was springtime, the breeze on the bank of the Yamuna was blowing very mildly, carrying the aroma of different flowers, especially the flower known as kumudi. Anybody familiar with that flower? Okay. Moonlight filled the sky and spread everywhere, and thus the banks of the Yamuna appeared very bright and pleasing, and Lord Balaram enjoyed the company of the gopis there. So for 2 months, every night. The demigod known as Varuna sent his daughter Varuni in the form of liquid honey oozing from the hollows of the trees. Because of this honey, the whole forest became aromatic, and the sweet aroma of the liquid honey, Varuni, captivated Balaramji. Balaramji and all the gopis became very much attracted by the taste of the Varuni, so the gopis also were drinking Varuni. And all of them drank it together. While drinking this natural beverage, all the gopis chanted the glories of Lord Balaram, and Lord Balaram felt very happy, as if he had become intoxicated by drinking that Varuni beverage. His eyes rolled in a pleasing attitude. He was decorated with long garlands of forest flowers, and the whole situation appeared to be a great function of happiness because of this transcendental bliss. Lord Balaram smiled beautifully, and the drops of perspiration decorating his face appeared like soothing morning dew. While Balaram was in that happy mood, he desired to enjoy the company of the gopis in the water of the Yamuna. Therefore he called the Yamuna to come nearby. So he was intoxicated by this Varuni, and he told Yamuna, okay, come, nearby. Right? Usually rivers don't do that, But the Yamuna neglected the order of Balaramji, considering him intoxicated. Lord Balaram became very much displeased at the Yamuna's neglecting his order. He immediately wanted to scratch the land near the river with his plowshare. Lord Balaram had 2 weapons, a plow and a club, from which he takes service when they are required. This time he wanted to bring the Yamuna by force, and he took the help of his plow. He wanted to punish the Yamuna because she did not come in obedience to his order. He addressed the Yamuna, "You wretched river, you do not care for my order. Now I shall teach you a lesson. You did not come to me voluntarily. Now with the help of my plow, I shall force you to come. I shall divide you into hundreds of scattered streams." When the Yamuna was threatened like this, she became greatly afraid of the power of Balaram, and immediately came in person, falling at his lotus feet and praying thus: "My dear Balaram, you are the most powerful personality, and you are pleasing to everyone. Unfortunately, I forgot your glorious, exalted position. But now I have come to my senses, and I remember that you hold all the planetary systems on your head merely by your partial expansion Shesha. You are the sustainer of the whole universe. My dear Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are full with 6 opulences. Because I forgot your omnipotence, I have mistakenly disobeyed your order, and thus have become a great offender. But my dear Lord, please know that I am a soul surrendered unto you. You are very affectionate to your devotees. Therefore, please excuse my impotence and mistakes, and by your causeless mercy, may you now release me." So, short. We're almost done here. Upon displaying this submissive attitude, the Yamuna was forgiven, and when she came nearby, Lord Balaram enjoyed the pleasure of swimming in her waters along with the gopis in the same way that an elephant enjoys himself along with his many she-elephants. After a long time, when Lord Balaram had enjoyed to his full satisfaction, he came out of the water, and immediately a goddess of fortune offered him a nice blue garment and a valuable necklace made of gold. After bathing in the Yamuna, Lord Balaram, dressed in blue garments and decorated with golden ornaments, looked very attractive to everyone. Lord Balaram's complexion is white, and when he was properly dressed, he looked exactly like the white elephant of King Indra in the heavenly planets. The river Yamuna still has many small branches due to being scratched by the plowshare of Lord Balaram. And all of these branches of the river Yamuna still glorify the omnipotence of Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram and the gopis enjoyed transcendental pastimes together every night for 2 months. And time passed so quickly that all of those nights appeared to be only one night. In the presence of the Lord Balaram, all the gopis and other inhabitants of Vrindavan became as cheerful as they had been before in the presence of both brothers, Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 65th chapter of Krishna, Lord Balaram visits Vrindavan. So, yeah, it is the day of celebrating Balaram dancing with the gopis. And Also within the 10th canto it says that one who meditates on these pastimes, it frees one from it says, hrit rog, which is the disease of the heart. And the disease of the heart is material desire, lusty desires for material enjoyment in this material world. If they hear submissively from authorities, sober authorities. And so yeah, it's actually quite amazing what Prabhupada did. He translated and commented, and he did summary study, which is practically a translation and commentary of the 10th canto, verse by verse, of Krishna book. And as Prabhupada states in the Bhagavatam many times, you should read from the beginning to the end, which first canto is Krishna's lotus feet, the 10th canto is Krishna's face, and the Rasa Leela is said to be his smile. So it said you shouldn't just jump to his face. Even while taking darshan of the deities, it says from your feet you take darshan. Why? Because again, people become confused. But what did Prabhupada do? He said that, but then what did he do? He translated a summary study of Krishna book. This is not an in-house book. It is, but this is a Prabhupada said mass distribution. We want to distribute these all over the world, in all the airports of the world, this book. At that time, a lot of airport distribution. So the idea is that Prabhupada wrote it in such a way that people, of course, people could always become confused, but it's very they're hearing from authority, namely Srila Prabhupada, and in this way, it's easy for them to get the right picture. So people claim, oh, Prabhupada didn't give you the highest thing, this and that. Prabhupada gave the highest thing to everybody, namely distributing the most intimate 10th canto all over the world to this day. So, anyway, so this day we can meditate on Balaram's Rasayatra, Krishna's Santarasa, and Vamsivadana, Thakura, and Shyamananda, all these wonderful personalities. So does anyone have any question or comments? Okay. All right. So tomorrow, Mukunda Charna will speak on this verse. So I wasn't trying just to avoid that verse. It's not like some difficult, like complicated or controversial verse and purport or something. It's just this day it's important to meditate on holidays. Okay.
My question isn't regarding anything you just read, actually, but it's something that you had said in the beginning that made me think about something else. You had mentioned, you briefly had said, some devotees you were given the example of the Swami. Who was it that you were talking about again?
Oh, that's why I
you don't want to say.
That's
okay,
why I didn't say his name, because someone,
Sorry.
anyways, there was some. I mean, he's not, he's still a Swami within ISKCON, but yes.
Okay.
He's trying to be humble, so I'm trying to keep his, he didn't
preserve
want anybody to know about him sweeping around Radhakund, so I'm just trying to, keep him humble, right?
Okay. So, you had mentioned how, he wasn't feeling this particular taste, so he was thinking, what do I need to do? And you had mentioned sometimes devotees, in extreme cases, if they don't have sufficient taste, they just go away from Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
And that made me think about book distribution. So we advertise this process. Not advertise is kind of a weird word, but anyway, I'll just say advertise for lack of a better term. This process as being as Prabhupada says, the topmost peace formula, the highest thing. So, but sometimes people ask, do you experience the topmost peace? And while I experience some peace in Krishna, something in Krishna consciousness, which is why I'm still here, but I'm obviously not experiencing the topmost thing because I'm not a pure devotee. So what would you say to that if somebody were to ask you that?
Well, you just be honest. Be honest. I mean, the one thing is the best advertisement for Krishna consciousness is being a pure devotee, which means so many things, but just being happy. Like they asked Jayananda Prabhu. This is in Dhanavir Goswami's book. What's that book called? Anyways, his book about Prabhupada. I'm forgetting, but he says, someone asked Jayananda Prabhu, "Oh, Jayananda Prabhu, why?" Prabhupada said he's American saint. So he said, someone asked him, "Well, how do you become happy in Krishna consciousness?" And Jayananda Prabhu had a very interesting answer. He said, "Oh, I don't know, Prabhu. I'm too busy to think about it." So you're so busy in Krishna's service, you're just always happy. So that's best advertisement, to be happy and to be experiencing what the books are saying we can experience, right? Just like if we have all these wonderful, this wonderful song glorifying the spiritual master, right? He's shivering, and tears are coming from, or so many other glorification of the spiritual master. So that song is indicating that there's personalities like that. There has to be personalities like that, or who are we singing to? So if we could become like that, at least to some degree, then that's a great advertisement for bringing souls back to Krishna. But okay, the question is, well, what happens if we're not experiencing that? Well, in severe cases, it would be very difficult to preach. Very, very difficult, because you're not feeling happy. So and then people could see you're not feeling happy, or people could see you're not happy as a person. It's like, okay, well, why don't I want to take that book? This book will make you happy, right? You read it, you follow it, you'll be happy. But if you look very miserable and confused and distressed, then but like you said, okay, but what if we're not experiencing everything? Well, you just be honest and say, well, I'm making my way there. I experience at times, levels of happiness and peace that I definitely was experiencing before. And gradually, over time, I'm hoping to get to the higher stages. But just give me some time. After all, I've only been doing this for so long. But you can't use that forever, right? If 20, 30 years pass and you start, you keep on saying, "Oh, well, I'm gradually making," if you're still looking disturbed and confused and unhappy after so many years, well, it'd be very difficult for people to believe you at that point, using that card. So best try to make it there as soon as possible, and in the meantime, you just tell people, "Oh, well, the truth, honesty." So, like somebody asked me, "Oh, are you afraid of death?" Somebody asked me at a college one time, and it wasn't necessarily so challenging, but I said, well, I'm working on it. I'm not going to claim, I'm completely free, from fear of death. But I said I'm working on it. So they said, huh? Yeah. Generally, people are satisfied if you're just honest. Usually, unless you're, dealing with a bunch of cheaters. But so, all right. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai.